Yeah, I do have a comment. I continue to be uncomfortable with the demographic projections used for renovation and construction work and expansion, and therefore I will not be supporting this. That's all I have to say.
Any other comments? Okay, Secretary O'Donnell, can you please call the roll?
Student Trustee Escamilla.
Yes.
Trustee Wozniak.
Yes.
Trustee Hamilton.
No.
Trustee McGuire.
Yes.
Trustee O'Donnell, yes. Trustee Savage.
Yes.
Trustee Svoboda.
Yes.
Chairman Birt.
Yes, that motion passes. Next on our agenda is the trustee discussion items, and based upon last month's conversation about policy 10-65, I placed on the agenda the topic for this evening. And so at this point in time, we'll open this up for discussion. So whoever would like to speak at this time.
So I do have a statement to make about that. I was the one that did look at the policy, and I don't know if you remember, and if you have in front of you, I took off the limit on the $15,000 so that we would see checks on the impressed account below that. And the reason I did that was because most community colleges don't have this $15,000 limitation. What they do is they just allow, quote unquote, allow, how can you allow public officials in a public entity to look at public documents? Of course, there's no such thing as allow, right? They can see what those disbursements on. They are not, it's not vendor payment, it's not invoices, it's disbursements. And that's exactly how the policy reads. And so I just want to say that, that it's very important for us to actually have transparency in seeing what kind of disbursements are being made by the college. And what I'm about to discuss will show conclusively that we need to have new leadership at COD and have an institutional commitment for uncompromising and comprehensive reform. Just one board meeting after Dr. Bruder had asked the board to approve the financial reports for 2013-2014, there has been issued a public oops. Yes, a public oops. This is following after an oops 2 weeks ago where an individual was sentenced to 9 years in prison for fraud at the College of DuPage. May I please read this to everyone?
Wait, I'm going to double check this with our attorney because you're starting to talk about things that I think is probably not appropriate at this point in time. Is she and maybe I didn't
was
really
told that
understand
this was
you.
made public. This is.
I'm just seeking clarification, Kathy, and if it's okay, you can make your statement all you want. But I'd like to hear from counsel if this is a litigation matter that is confidential, or I didn't really understand what she was saying.
Well, it's sort of hard to say in public if I'm going to ask her the questions relating to this.
Yeah.
Well, that's the only problem.
I think she's treading in
Okay, I'd just like to interject.
problematic waters.
Okay, I X'd out everything that would have been problematic, I'm sure. But this was, I received that in the email of the college that there is a press release regarding the topic that I think you feel uneasy about, okay? And
Yeah,
I'm going to go
I feel
ahead.
really
Okay.
uneasy about it, and if you
If
talk
it's-
about it, you're going to have
It's
an
been, I was
issue with
told,
your
I
role
was
here at the
told that
college.
I was told that it was in the public purview, right? That's what it says right here in my computer.
Are we talking about the statement that the college released?
Yes, I'm about to read the statement that the college released. Can I do
She was about
that?
to go into facts
Well-
behind that statement.
No, you don't know what I was about to do.
I heard what you said.
Well, let me just say that if it's the statement
I'm
that
reading
the
the
college
statement.
released, you can say that.
Okay.
If it's anything factual relating or the background of that statement, I would caution you from releasing that information.
I think we're okay. I will exit out if it comes up. Okay? All right. Okay, so we know, I'm just saying, 2 weeks ago, we had an announcement of a fraud, 9 years this individual is spending in prison.
Whoa, stop yourself again.
We didn't have an announcement.
There was
of that.
no announcement.
It was in the
Adam
newspaper.
Angievsky probably is telling you the wrong thing.
No, it was in the
She's talking about
newspaper.
In the thing in the newspaper from the student loans,
Loans.
Aid
the
from.
financial aid thing.
But I'm looking at him, and
Yeah.
he thinks it's
Well,
something
there are
different.
two other matters that we're dealing with. So we are dealing with the,
So how
we're
many
dealing with a
fraud
couple-
cases are we dealing with exactly?
well, that's the problem, that now that is under investigation right now, and that is why we cannot talk
But it was
about that.
released to the media.
Why don't we focus on
The
1065?
statement was released to the media.
Okay,
The statement
I'm gonna read, because
for
actually,
investigation was released to the-
transparency, I'm telling you why I'm bringing this up. I'm bringing
And-
this
and
up.
just so the
I'm
public
going to
knows,
entertain a
what-
motion to take a break
Can I
at this
just
time
say-
so our legal counsel can talk.
and just so I'm clear, since
No, I
part of
just
this.
think, no, listen, guys, this is it, it's in the media, okay? It's
Okay.
been released to the media, I'm gonna say it. I'm a public official, I was elected to come here and speak.
And I just,
Second, 'cause
can
she
I
was
just say
talking.
something, please? So everybody here, since we're discussing something that we're not discussing, but we are, is that one of the fraud cases is under investigation, and we have been cautioned by the state's attorney from releasing that information. So I want to be clear with this board that we are not going to be going into that route and talking about that in public, okay?
We're
That's
not gonna
all
be
I'm saying.
talking about it in public. We're not gonna be talking about the details of it, or we're not gonna be talking about the existence of it.
I'm saying that the statement that the college released was approved to be released, that it's under investigation, that is
Great, then
it.
that's all, I'm gonna reread the policy, okay? I'm gonna reread the thing, okay?
Okay, I'm just saying
The College
that-
of DuPage uncovers possible fraud, quote, "In December of 2013, College of DuPage officials uncovered a possible case of fraud by an employee of WDCB, the college radio station.
That's the
The
station.
college immediately reported the matter to law enforcement officials, and the college has been cooperating fully during the investigation. The college also immediately informed its external auditors, this is why I'm bringing it up, of the potential fraud. Based on pending investigation and possible legal proceedings, no further comments will be given at this time." Okay, so I'm saying, we just were asked to approve financial statements, okay? But this is after, we knew, because it says December 2013, that this fraud was going on, okay? That's all I'm sorry, okay. Given the scope of
Well, I
this,
just want to caution you, going on versus there was investigation
Right.
that was starting, there's a whole different issue.
Oh,
You
okay.
just said fraud going on.
okay, you're right, okay.
The investigation is
Of
going on.
Investigation of the fraud, okay, thank you.
Well, I'm just cautioning.
I
See,
am
that's-
a CPA, and I'm also an MBA. I am not a lawyer, so I apologize.
And I just
correct
wanna
me.
say
Feel free to
that-
pop up and correct me when you want
Yes,
to.
and I
okay?
will, but I'm just
let me
saying
just-
that
I
the
just wanna
state's
clarify. I'm
attorney's
not trying to
office
stop
has
you from talking. I'm just
advised
saying
this
you have to be-
board
as
I'm
you say,
gonna
not
be
to
very-
release, or talk about that
I'm just trying to
information
make a
during the
point here about the
investigation.
financial statements, okay? I'm trying to make a point here about the financial statements. I think everybody here has listened to the statements here, okay? You see that there is fraud. I mean, a discussion, possible fraud, there historically has been fraud. You know, what I'm saying is that when we look at our financial statements, we have to know that our internal controls are intact and that we have confidence in them. And when we have a potential fraud, we look at scope. And when we look at scope, we look at the possibility, as I said last month, of missing problems with the internal controls. And as you know, we were asked to, you kind of I'm just skipping over this stuff that, you know, we have been asked to approve financial statements, and knowing that this has been under investigation. And so this is the reason why I declined to approve the financial statements, because I am a certified public accountant. And I know that there are risks associated with approving financial statements like
When's the last
that.
time you actually worked as a CPA and were paid for your services as CPA?
You know,
Can you tell the public that? You've been a
See-
stay-at-home mom for how many years?
COD's lax controls with the taxpayer dollars are apparent in the impressed funds. So we're moving on to the impressed funds. We have control issues. We have control issues. Apparently, we have fraud or alleged fraud coming about. And then we move on. COD's lax control pairs with tax.
One second.
If you guys will let me get through this, I can make my point.
Well, we want to talk about policy
The policy.
1065.
Okay, my policy here is,
Going
okay,
beyond
so when you have, in this impressed account, okay, so we have issues with the controls probably, we've saw, and specifically with the man that was just convicted for 9 years of the loan fraud, right?
Accurate.
I heard.
It's not accurate.
No, I'm actually not mixing anything up. Let's just move
Wait,
on.
listen to our attorney now.
Okay, I'm going to suggest and strongly suggest that you are delving into, even though you're not mentioning names, you're going now into certain parts of the facts. If you're going to deal with a board policy, you should stick to the board policy, and you can avoid any disclosure.
Okay. Okay, I'm past that paragraph.
Okay.
It's unfortunate that you didn't sit in on the presentation that we had earlier. You left for 20 minutes? Was it 20?
16.
16 minutes. And the rest of us had the benefit of valuable information that everything you're saying
Erin, I
right
hate to
now-
tell you, I've heard it before. I heard it before, and heard it.
I know, like when you slept through like the meetings and the agenda planning meetings.
I never did that. Stop accusing me of that.
But what I'm saying is you left. You're not
Okay,
paying
look, let us
attention
not
to things.
digress. Can we talk about this?
I would like to talk about 1065.
Okay, I agree, me too. Let's do it.
You haven't talked about it yet. You've
I'm
actually
got
put
to
everything
it.
in a
I got
very
to it.
uncomfortable position.
What's that? I'm
You put
sorry.
everybody here in a very uncomfortable position.
Why
Talk
is
about
that, Erin? How did I
1065,
do
please.
that? How did I put everybody in an uncomfortable position?
I think our attorney talked enough about it. Are you going to talk about 1065 or can we move on?
Okay, I will. Okay,
Yes, the
If I
policy
may-
itself, the language, you can propose whatever changes
If I
you
may.
want, that's it.
if I
But
may, please.
Yeah.
I would like to
Stay
continue.
away from that.
I
other-
will, I hear you. You don't want to hear about that stuff. Okay, I got it.
No,
Okay.
it's not that we don't want to hear it. It's we
It's-
were asked by the state's attorney's office not to discuss those matters during their investigation. There's going to be, as the statement is read, that's exactly what the factual situation is with that.
Okay, I don't need to, I think I've made my point that. when
And
we
by the
have-
way, this is not for my benefit, it's for the board's benefit.
Okay, so
Because if
let's
there's any state's attorney is going to come and say, listen, you're releasing information that's an obstruction of
Rez, I
justice, they're going to come.
I do, I appreciate that. Just let me talk, okay?
Okay.
Okay. So we see there's an issue with, that has resulted in some questionable things going on. I'm not even going to use my words, I'm just going to say things, okay? So here we are, when we look at that, there are questions of controls, but also when we look at the impress accounts, we see that we have payments in there that are over the $15,000 limit.
We have a whole presentation on this.
That was explained.
Yeah, it wasn't actually didn't explain all of them.
Well, that's
Okay.
maybe because you left during.
No, actually, I didn't leave during that. I listened to that.
It was pretty much all
Okay,
covered.
okay, you guys, you want to just listen? I'll be
Oh,
done
you
in
were
2
gone, it was all
minutes.
covered, Kathy.
I'll be done in a couple
So you know.
minutes. Oh, my God. In the impressed accounts, there are tens and thousands of taxpayers' dollars that went to Dr. Bruder's Hunt Club. For the record, I strongly oppose spending taxpayer dollars on Dr. Bruder's Hunt Club. But the majority of this board supports taxpayer dollars to Dr. Bruder's Hunt Club. So off they go. No transparency, no line item transparency to the citizens or to the board.
How does this relate to 1065?
There's no transparency. That's because we need to just get rid of that $15,000. If we got rid of the $15,000, we'd be able to see that the expenses went to Dr. Bruder for his Hunt Club payments, or that the expenses went to all of the utilities, or to all of the lawyers, or to all of the various different professionals. Right now, we don't get a chance to see that. And we are charged with evaluating these expenses.
Yes, Trustee Savage.
I believe I remember reading that we can ask to see that anytime that we want. I also heard.
Well,
that
how about
there are-
every day? I want to ask every single time I
Please let
come here, I
Trustee
want to see
Savage
it. Why, you
speak.
guys
And
interrupt
I
me a
don't
1,000
have a-
times.
I don't
Stop, you're out
have
of
a
order.
problem with
Let her
that.
speak.
However, I also
Why
heard
don't you do
that
that
there
when
are
people-
2,400 transactions a month that you're going to be reading. I think that's one of the things that we need to talk about. Do we want to see that? And there's no reason why we can't see that. But you also just said that everybody approved, money, taxpayer money going to a hunt club.
No, that's because we just approved one number or several numbers that are on that
But that
account,
doesn't-
on that report that Lynn shows you. In your financial reports, you have one that's like a summary,
Yeah,
okay?
I
And
get
that
that,
gives the
Kathy.
numbers, and then
But
they're
we-
like line by line by line.
When I ran for the board, it was very clear from the citizens that they did not want the trustees micromanaging the college. If you're going to approve every $5 transaction that the board does, that's going to that the college has to spend, that's going to bog down the operation of the college. They're not going to be able to do business. There are very good controls in place, and
But there are ways of doing it. You can do it after the payments are made. But just
I
so
don't-
long we can see what the disbursements are, we have the ability to order them. We see the most expensive ones at the top, and then we don't look at anything under $1,000 or whatever.
And we do not need to know how many markers that they need for the classrooms. We just need to know that somebody is going to make sure there's enough markers in the classrooms for the faculty to do their jobs and so the students can learn, and for everything else that we need to do.
I find this to be so dysfunctional. We have, most of the community colleges do this, and then we have this ridiculous conversation.
Secretary O'Donnell.
I just wanted to point out, again, from the presentation, that the majority of those payments, we still would not be able to see because they are related to financial aid payments, and that information is by federal law. We are
And-
not
and
allowed to
what's-
see the details of that. In addition, when we approve the vendor, the contracts in the consent agenda, most of those payments that are going out, we've already approved the contracts for those. This is just the payment going out the door. So we've already approved it in the front end.
I have no problem looking at a bunch of numbers, even if it's 2,400, and we get to see that contractually, we see that number go out the door. We see that payment to that lawyer or that account or whatever is going out the door. What could we possibly be afraid of to have more information, to have more transparencies, so that we'll all know if something weird goes up, like hunt club payments?
I'm going to go with Trustee Svoboda because she hasn't had an opportunity yet.
Okay.
Oh, okay. I was figuring you were
You're
going to be
on.
next, Kim. I'm just wondering about the volume of this. As Lynn was talking about the number of checks and all of this, that if we started seeing this, it just in terms of practicality, what are we talking about? Say it was printed out, are we talking about pages and pages and pages of things that would be coming our way?
We're probably talking about, it'll vary, because we won't show you anything on students, that'll still be a lump sum, since that's protected under FERPA. So you're talking maybe about 12 to 18 pages. And again, it makes no difference to us if you want that.
Right, and I appreciated the way you said that. It's up to us to decide. But I also appreciate your expertise because I'm not an accountant. And so, I am here to represent the people in the community. And also, one of the things that I think that is important is trusting the people of the college. When you gave your presentation and that of the others who were with you, knowing that they had CPAs, knowing that they had master's degrees, gives me a lot of confidence. And all the awards we've won, that also gives me confidence. If I have a reason to question, of course, we want to look at it. You're nodding your head, you're very willing, so seeing all of that, I'm not sure what more I would get out of that.
Again, it's up to the board, it's your pleasure, whatever you want to see.
And we've seen them in the past. It is, as
Right.
Trustee Savage said, we have an opportunity to ask for them. Documents are always produced. I don't think there's ever been an occasion where we've asked for something and we haven't been able to see it. Trustee Savage?
A couple things. One, I think Dr. Bruder said something very important earlier, that people are human and, mistakes happen. That'll happen no matter whether we look at every penny or not. I actually think that it would be a good idea for us to have a printout in section separating that from the other checks that are already out there. People are interested in seeing it. I have no problem putting it in there. I don't know that that requires changing the dollar amount in the policy.
Should just get rid of it.
But, I think it's important. But I also think that, I have confidence in our financial services staff. I have confidence in all of our staff. And, besides adding another internal auditor, we've also instituted the ethics hotline. And I would hope that if people see things that are amiss, that they would report it to the ethics hotline, because that is done externally to the campus.
And then that comes, I'm sorry,
It's okay.
that comes to the board. So there's checks and balances on the school in terms of looking at the operations, looking at making sure that if there is some type of breach, we're going to be made aware of it.
Agree?
So, oh, sorry.
Trustee McGuire hasn't had an opportunity
I
yet.
think I want to say this. Oftentimes, the Hunt Club comes up as the most egregious kind of excessive expense. And it was a surprise to me that we have that membership for you. But it's also my understanding now that that was a part of the original contract that you put in place when the boards before us made that available to you. And that it's actually more reasonably priced than some other clubs some presidents might want to belong to. So I know it's often suggested that that's the kind of expense that we're looking for.
Well,
But I'm okay with that. I think this was part of Dr. Bitter's contract. It surprised me. I didn't know that would be a part of a contract. But it's not so alarming. And I really was impressed with the checks and balances that are in place. And anybody who knows me on this board, and I know Dr. Tom Glazer does, I've looked at these dollar figures a lot. And I have questioned them, and we can have healthy debates on what constitutes an appropriate reserve or how we spend the money. But to question how, once the decisions are made, how it's processed, and that there's some implied dealings that are just not as transparent as they should be, I don't see it. I just don't see it. I think it's okay, and I'm not going to vote for any changes.
I think the last comment on this topic, I'll let you go ahead, Kathy.
okay, so, Diane, the reason why you don't see it is because it's not there. It's not there because it's not line by line by line. You just see one number, that's it, okay? Most community colleges in the area insist on seeing line by line. They find that to be their fiduciary duty. If
And
you
it's a
go-
much smaller enterprise usually. We're the biggest of the community
16
colleges.
pages, Diane. You say you go through those numbers, no
I do.
problem, all the time meticulously. I think you could do it. I really do.
Not
I
a
think
question if
you'd
I
love
could do it or not, but is it necessary?
Yes, it is necessary. And I dare say, I submit to you that it is your duty as a publicly elected official to go through those expenses. I really do. Okay. Anyway, moving on to the club memberships. The reason why club memberships in particular.
We had a comment on topic, which
So-
would be.
No, this is
Kathy, you're
topic.
saying that it's necessary.
What's necessary?
Having the detail and the in-purse payments, but you never came to anybody on the board to talk to us before you brought it up at the meeting.
That's because you
It
guys
was-
weren't talking to me, remember?
I'm cool with that
Excuse
shipment.
me, you
I
never
heard
call
anything
me.
about it.
You never email me.
No.
You never do.
'Cause she has her
I've barely
attorney do
heard
it.
from you since you got on this board, so please don't sit there and tell me that I don't talk to you. You don't reach out to me either.
Okay, it's a good.
And you didn't, but
You know,
you just
it's
brought
a
it up
good
in the
thing to
meeting
discuss.
just
Okay,
for
so, and this
publicity
is
for yourself.
topical, and this is topical. We're having this discussion here. I think it's a good place to have a discussion. All of us can talk about a limit of $15,000, whether or not the public gets a chance to see what those expenses are too. So it's not only us, but it's the public. And if we don't detail that, we're denying the public the right to see how public money is spent in a public institution from public documents.
That's not accurate. Trustee Wozniak, you wanted to make a comment, or?
Well, I mean, I also like to say that I've never heard anything either, and I'm, co-vice chairman, also an officer of this board, and I've never heard anything, from Kathy or anything, about this either, myself.
I brought it up here in the board. I wanted it to be discussed publicly. I thought it would be good for, we're a public
Personally,
institution.
not the board, me personally.
It'd be good to discuss this publicly. We're a public institution, and I thought we would discuss it out in the open. So, anyway, I wanted to discuss the IRS regulations with regard to club memberships.
Right, no, I
Since
agree.
1994, the IRS does not allow,
I'm gonna stop
institutions to deduct these kind of
That isn't the
dues.
policy.
This
No,
isn't
but I'm saying, the question was,
topic.
why does the club, that's why it comes up, because it's largely considered to be somewhat of a luxury and inappropriate.
Okay, this isn't a free-for-all. I think the topic was 1065. I think we've had plenty of discussion on that topic. I think that everybody but one heard all of the information that was presented this evening, and that we had a similar opinion about 1065 at this time. So I'm going to move on. We're done with that discussion.
Well, can we make a decision to put it up for consideration for a vote?
You're the only person that wants to, so I don't think so.
Are you not interested in it?
I think that we could list the items. I don't think we need to change the dollar amount because we don't need to approve everything that's under $15,000.
You don't want to see everything under 15?
You can see it, that doesn't mean that you're approving it. I think
Can you say that again, please?
You can leave the policy the way it is and just list everything under $15,000 so the trustees are seeing it and it's available to the public. The more information that's available, the less people have to FOIA and spend staff time
I see
so
what
that
you're
they
saying.
can
I see what you're saying. Yes, okay,
take
that's a
them away
good
from
point.
their work.
So should we say list it on the vendor policy? Should we
Just-
ask that it be listed?
Just ask that it all be listed, except for the things that are prohibited by FERPA, and I don't know if there's any HIPAA things. Are there any insurance? Okay.
Okay.
So anything that's prohibited by FERPA would be excluded.
Okay, we've discussed it. Good input. Let's move on. We're going to take a 5-minute break before we go into closed session. Well, I'll have to take a motion on that, so don't take off yet.
So moved.
I'll entertain a motion to take a break. That was moved by trustee McGuire, seconded by trustee Savage. But I do want to make an announcement first for those of you who are joining us this evening. There will be no business conducted afterwards. However, we will have the general public comment section after our closed session. Okay, so
And-
can we call for a voice vote?
And can I state the reasons why we're going to close session?
I didn't do the motion
Oh,
to go
you
into
did.
close. I did a
Okay.
motion to take
All
a
right.
break, and then we'll come back, and then we'll do the motion for
All
the
those
close.
in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign.
Motion passes. We'll take a break.